Welcome to the Superconscious Success Podcast, where Jen and her Superconscious Success family co-hosts bring you valuable content each and every week on topics relating to manifestation, spirituality, and most of all, using your superconscious to manifest success in all areas of your life. Now on to today's episode.
Hey there, Superconscious Success fam. Just before we get into the interview, this is just a brief message. This is actually a recording of the 2021 Superconscious Success Summit interviews. If you do want to check out the introductory for all of the guests, then you can go across to our Superconscious Success YouTube channel where you'll be able to find all the introductions. These particular podcast interviews will be the interview only. Okay, thank you. Now let's get on to the interview. Hey there, Superconscious Success fam. Welcome back to another incredible interview. We are going to be talking to Julie Reisler today. And if you have not yet listened to her introductory interview on YouTube, then head across to the Superconscious Success YouTube channel and check that out. She goes into her story as to how intuition and listening to the heart really helped her to get through struggles that she had when she was younger, and also to really help her progress in business and in her personal life. So, hey, Julie, how are you doing today?
I am good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on as a guest. I love this topic.
I'm so excited to be having you here because, as we were discussing in the introductory interview, intuition and listening to the heart and doing everything from the heart really is a passionate topic of both of ours, and my intuition guided me to get in touch with you, and I'm so grateful that I did. So we're going to start off by asking, how, as a spiritual entrepreneur, how is it that we actually get to our heart's desire?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So first of all, I'd recommend to anyone listening, I'm a huge fan of anything by HeartMath. And this is an organization over the last 30 plus years that has studied what's called heart intelligence. So just to put that out there, I'm just sharing anything by HeartMath. What the research has found is that, we access information around us, and it actually comes through our heart first, then travels to our head and gut, and then back to the heart. So ways to connect is, first of all, adding any kind of stillness to your life, whether you call that meditation, intentional breathing. It's got to be a must. It's got to be some time of just slowing down and getting silent, or meditating in whatever way works for you. The way that I was doing it myself and then have learned with HeartMath is called the heart lock-in, or just connecting to your heart. It's super simple. It's free. We all have this ability. And so, it really starts with putting a hand to your heart, connecting, first of all, to your heart, feeling that energy, slowing your breathing down, and then tuning into the qualities of your heart. So not just thinking them, this is the difference. We want to drop down, go down the 18 inches from your head to your heart, and start feeling those qualities of appreciation, of care, of gratitude, of compassion. So to prompt those, for some of us, it might be like, that's nice, I don't really feel it. So you might want to even create a little story bank or idea bank of what helps you to feel that. So thinking of your pet, of your spouse, of your partner, of your child, of your best friend, of your favorite memory of being in nature. The minute you'll know, you want to bring in any of those memories or those feelings. And once you have that feeling, it's kind of like that locking in, that keying in. And what happens is, we know scientifically it shifts you into heart-brain coherence, which is when you have heart rate variability, and it helps with being in a state of more kindness, less judgment. I mean, there's real effects to that. The next step would be to tune into your heart and start to use that connection and ask it intuitively for information, to tap into your heart intelligence. So that's kind of step 2. But first would be just starting to get that connection and doing this every day. It's 2 to 3 minutes. That's all.
Yeah. And so you would recommend, when we're getting in touch with our heart, is, because I know myself, I do meditate a lot because I find it centers myself, and I do a lot of heart meditation where you really connect with it. But I have had some people that have said that they can't, because when I connect, there's that real intense feeling in the heart. It's like this overabundance of joy. It's just like this almost an explosion, but that doesn't happen for everybody. And I've had people that have said, how do I get to that state? And I love your idea of creating a story bank so that you can actually go back and you can start to think of good memories or things that really light you up. And so, like you said, I often say to them, look, think of your pet. Pets are one thing that I've got 2 dogs, and I think of them and my whole face just lights up because they are so adorable. So is there any techniques for people that are really struggling to really connect with the heart and to have that feeling of joy that that we so desire?
Yeah, I think one is to be kind and compassionate and not put pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
When I know I'm especially imagining many who are listening probably fall into the overachiever category or the like I'm a doer and I want to feel this way. That has that pushing energy. We
Yeah.
want to be in a receptive energy. Some of it think of as masculine and feminine energy. You can call it whatever you want, but to receive, to be in that state, it's not about making it happen. And so this you want this to be as much of a natural process as possible. So, it could be really simple. It's just we want to get into that emotional state, those emotions in motion in your body, those energies in motion. So, for me, just like thinking about my kitty or, the beautiful sunset or sunrise that I saw, or that feeling when I've gotten, a note from someone that's really loving, or when I look at my son in his eyes, right, or my daughter, and it's like, oh, I just feel so grateful. So it can be anything. You could also, frankly, a great one is to tune into your body, tune into your heart. Just take a moment.
Yeah.
Your heart is beating all the time on your behalf. It is never asked you for anything. You've not paid for it. It is a given. And you could even tune into, oh my God, I have a heart that works, or lungs that work, or a brain that works. And that's pretty amazing in itself. So that alone, if when in doubt, go inside and find a part of your functioning, your body, or the way that your life is just happening, most of it autonomous, without you having to think about it. That's a great place to start.
Absolutely. And when you look at our bodies and you look at how amazing and what a miracle it is, because all of these organs, they function without us actually requiring anything. And so I think that's a great one, because many of us don't tap into that. We don't recognize how powerful our bodies are. And this is why we say that gratitude is so important, because if you can find things to be grateful for, you can always tap into that heart energy. Because the whole act of gratitude is coming from within. It's coming from the heart. So when we talk about that, and then we talk about intuition, can you go into what intuition is and how we might be able to start hearing the messages that are actually coming from source?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, just to go back for a minute, is, we know that our brain really can only focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So if you do make it a practice to focus on those qualities of your heart, of gratitude, appreciation, whatever, that, that those emotions that put you into that state of alignment and flow and connection, it's hard, you're going to be focused there. And of course, we know what you focus on expands. So a great way to change your state or feel more in flow is to go into your heart energy, that natural feeling of appreciation. So that is one piece. Intuition, look, we all have intuition. It, to me, is one of the biggest gifts. It's one of the most, it's becoming more highlighted, but I really think this is something that should be taught when we start in school and on our way.
Absolutely.
There's a wisdom that you and I and everyone listening has, and it is different from all of us. I think I was sharing this with you. I have a really lovely, it's a free assessment, and it helps you to really tap into your dominant type. But I kind of look at it as, you typically have a dominant type. Some of us have more than one. I know the more that I've been practicing this muscle, I have all 4 at this point. But it's, think about, so I would just say, I would ask anybody to sort of think in your past, a time when you had a knowing or a sense or a feeling about something with absolutely no logical reason for knowing that. I had a sad one, but it was in my first marriage, I was pregnant and I woke up, goodness, it was probably really early in the morning. My whole body went cold and I heard and I heard the voice that the baby was gone, and I felt in my body cold. I felt it. And I just sensed this. I knew it. Now, I didn't go to the doctors for another 4 weeks. There was no reason to know this. And that is what happened. It had left my body. It had stopped, breathing, living. That entity, died that exactly around that time, because they could see looking at the development. And there, I've many, many more stories. That's a little sad, but it was helpful because in the grieving process of that, I could tap into, wow, I'm so grateful that I have this knowing that does work. I think the thing that can be challenging is sometimes what happens is that information we get, while it, the quality of intuition, in my humble opinion, is usually very calm, very quiet, has a lot of truth to it. Sometimes that information can be hard to handle. Like, for example, that miscarriage, or when I, woke up in the middle of the night and I heard a voice that said, you're not okay in this relationship, in this marriage. It's not always easy to listen to it. However, I do believe that as you start to trust it and track it and really live by it, it's always for your highest good. And that has helped me to make some tough choices, because I just knew, and I did enough time not listening to it. So one activity is to have, if you're listening, go back and check out, just think about a couple of experiences where you had that knowing or sense for no logical reason. And what did you do? Did you listen? And when you did, what happened? And when you didn't listen? And that can be a lot of very powerful evidence.
Yeah, because I think we live a lot of our life in resistance. And I think that we resist that intuition, and we resist those voices, and the voices are coming through because our higher self is always trying to talk to us. It's always trying to guide us on the right path. But sometimes we don't listen because we think it's too hard, or we think I can't possibly go through that, because like you said, it's not always, the messages aren't always what we want to hear. But what are some of the dangers of not listening to that intuition and just ignoring it? Because I know that it can really change the direction of your life.
Yeah. And I would just, I would actually first say to everyone listening, to really think for yourself, go back and look at when you listened, when you didn't. For me, I started to track it and looked at it, and I thought, oh my gosh, I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I have my beautiful children, but like, I had an intuitive sense about the person I first married, that it wasn't the right fit. I did not listen. Now, it could be more extreme, and I believe this is where health issues come in. A lot of times we do get messages, and I heard it loud and clear with my thyroid, my adrenals. I mean, I actually heard, before I did, we did, consciously uncouple, I heard very, very clearly, if I did not leave that marriage, it was not energetically a great place for me. I heard, Julie, you're not going to be here in 5 years. And I heard how that would happen. And I was like,
oh, wow.
I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm here for a reason. I think, so it can show up as little hints. It can show up as little signals, or little voices or sensations, or, even in our dreams, or a hearing, or a knowing, or a feeling, or a sense. The thing is, I think it's important is to find support, so that you're not doing it by yourself, that you can have support with whatever is coming up. And honestly, I think, it can come up with our health. It can come up with choices around career. I took a job. I remember this. I live near DC. I worked for somebody who's very well known and on the Hill, and worked with the former president. And my instinct was like, no, don't work with him. A good person, but like, frankly, not a good fit at all. Had a temper, and just, it was changed since then. But I ended up having nightmares. I mean, some serious nightmares. And after 3 months, I left. So it wasn't the end of the world. This was in my early 20s. But had I listened, I wouldn't have gone to work there. And I think sometimes this, unfortunately, I mean, sadly, this can really be, it can affect your life. I know people that have, lost, had a sense about something going on in their body, and they didn't listen until it was too late. Hopefully that never happens. But, it could also come out with taking the route you don't usually take home, because the other route, there's an accident. I mean, I just today trusted implicitly, which means sometimes, it takes a lot of courage. It really does. but it's important to build your muscle like any muscle. And I think tracking it and looking at the evidence is a great way to do it, because then you're seeing your own life patterns. You don't
Yeah.
just take my word for it. It's like, where do you see this in your own life show up?
Yeah, exactly. And I know with myself, with intuition, when the times that I'm quietest is when I will actually receive all of the messages. I could be driving along, and so the interesting thing is that if I'm driving along and I might have music or something going, but then all of a sudden I'll get this little voice in my head saying turn the music off. So then I'll turn the music off, and then all of a sudden all the downloads start coming. And it's almost like they're saying, okay, we want to talk to you, but we need you to be quiet, and we need you to hear this. And it's interesting once you start doing that and you start really listening to all of those messages. Like you, I don't know if you said you had an autoimmune condition. I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, about 10 years ago. Yeah, just over 10 years ago, when I got adrenal burnout. And I didn't listen to my body, and I didn't listen to what my intuition was telling me. And so then I ended up with Hashimoto's. And I think, as you said, when it comes to health issues, being able to tap into that intuition and recognize when you're trying to be told something. I took 3 months off at the end of last year just to focus on spiritual growth and on my health, because my intuition was telling me that was something I needed to do. But it's not always easy, is it, to hear that, and to listen to some of those messages. Now, so we've got meditation. Meditation is a great way, and stillness and mindfulness. Are they the best techniques that we can use to tap into that intuition? And we talk about trust and trusting in the universe and trusting in source. So can you expand a little bit more on that for people that maybe don't really know how they can go about doing that?
Yeah, I would, and I totally feel you. I also have Hashimoto's. I think it's completely related. Actually, a lot of women and clients I work with have it, and I think it's connected to speaking up your voice and your throat chakra. And that's what my body told me. It's why I wear a lot of blue. Intuitively, I was wearing a lot of blue when I was diagnosed also 10 years ago. But going to your question, I think that there are a lot of ways to really nourish, nurture your intuition. Stillness, really, really important, like quiet, tampering your stress response, getting you into that state of quiet. Meditation, various forms. I personally am big into transcendental meditation. I like quiet with the mantra. That works for me. I do that usually 1 to 2 times a day. I think, finding any practice that can there's so much research on there. It's not even funny, but look, I really, this is my belief that, just like we have ourselves in physical form, I think there are beautiful beings of light that are not physical and not in the ethereal realm, that are full of guidance. You can call it spirit guides or light, or higher self connecting to other frequencies. And I think a lot of that connection comes, I know for me, I'm a huge fan. I've actually interviewed her. Laura Lynn Jackson, who's a medium, well-known medium, wrote a book called Signs, and she talks about signs and really tuning in, being aware, being awake. I get a lot of them on the road, but they can come through in numbers, through electricity, through, coins, feathers. Those are signs. And so I think one of the ways to tune into that communication, to me, it's getting guidance, support. I really believe this is a very loving universe with a lot of support. And I'm kind of like, hey, you want to support me? I'm all game, because I don't want to do this show myself. And I keep track of it. I keep I'll show you, I have a little booklet right here. And I keep track of those signs. I keep track of the signs. That's one thing, is keeping track of the evidence, the synchronicities, the things that happen that are out of the blue, that are like, whoa, I was just thinking of Pam and she just called me, and like, those are not to be forgotten. They build our muscle. The other is intuitive journaling. And one of the techniques that actually I've gotten from HeartMath, I had done this before, but I love their freeze frame technique. And you can see this on their HeartMath experience film, is you brain dump whatever's going on in your mind that you're fearful or scared or doubtful of. go within 2-3 minutes of just breathing, connecting to your heart, like I showed earlier, and then ask your heart or ask your intuition the same question very succinctly,
Yeah.
and notice what comes up. The other thing I do in the morning, sometimes, not all the time, is just, kind of tune in and just ask like higher guidance, higher self. I'm fully aware, awake, and open to your support and wisdom. Anything like that could help me today in showing up as my best self, and just see what comes up. Don't edit. It's unbelievable. I've been doing this a long time. Again, not every day, but a lot. And it's very, very, it sounds very different than what I would have written if I just sat down and kind of wrote what was in my mind. And there's evidence and research around this, because we're getting information from our heart versus the head first. And it's a different type of wisdom and intelligence. To me, it feels more of a higher frequency. And so I'm a fan of anything that can have you see these beautiful guidance. And then I actually map it out like in a mind map, like a tree. I map out when I listen and take action, what happens. And I have this beautiful tree over the last 7 years of what's happened in my career because of listening. It's really incredible.
And I think that's a really great idea that we can do to be able to really cement and trust that intuition is so beneficial to us. You were talking before about how intuition can show up in dreams, or people calling you out of the blue. And I've got a very quick story that I wanted to sort of like tell about this, where I was actually living in Melbourne, so I was in another state to where I am, and one of my best friends and I had fallen out years before because something to do with my wedding and all sorts of stuff that went on. So we kind of had a falling out. I'd moved to Germany for 2 years and then come back and moved to Melbourne. And all of a sudden I had a dream one night that she was in a car accident. And I remember waking up crying, and we hadn't spoken in years. And I just had this inner feeling that, that something was sort of like going to happen. And literally I went from upstairs, downstairs, and all of a sudden I got a phone call from her. And we hadn't spoken in years. And so we spoke, and she says, I just called your nan, and she gave me a number and all of this. And she rang up to apologize and to ask for forgiveness for something that had happened. And I think that it can show up in dreams. And I was just spun out, because back then I didn't know that I was an empath back then. I just didn't quite understand why I had all of these emotions and these feelings, and why I was always taking other people's things on board. So that's how it can also show up in your life. And I find butterflies are signs from my angels that they're around. And so whenever I see a butterfly, I look at it and go, it's going to be a good day. I just know it's going to be a good day, that, Source is trying to get a message across to me. And that's when okay, time to tap in and time to listen. So fantastic. Excellent. So can you explain a little bit about Mother Earth's CTA for spiritual entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I love it. Yes. Well, look, here's the thing. And this is oversimplifying, and I am not an expert in quantum physics or in energy, but we are all made of energy. We know that. Everything has an energy vibration quality to it, a cadence, you can measure it, right? That energy. And I, my understanding, my belief about Mother Earth is it's a living, breathing, so to speak, very dynamic, powerful, wise energy entity that I look at as like, it's the giver of life. If you think of a mother, I think of it as like the mother of all mothers. I mean, giving, supportive, loving, receive, all of that. And I really feel that part of what we're in right now, I mean, if you look at the history, the last couple thousand years, even just now, if you're listening, you're alive right now. So, we're in this time of shifting from the Piscean age to the Aquarius age, which is much more about, that air sign and enlightenment and being lighter and being more connected. And I think of consciousness and, our thoughts and beliefs, all of that lives in a higher plane, in that air plane. And, to me, that Mother Earth, call to action is for especially spiritual entrepreneurs who, frankly, if you could identify and categorize yourself in any way entrepreneurial, to me, that means you're willing to, to go out on a limb, to be courageous, to take risks, to make an impact with others, to do something that would be not the conventional way, to go out of the box, to try something new. And anyone in that category, we're all being called upon, I think, to share our own inner, light, calling, purpose. And I believe that direct link to that is your intuition, is your heart intelligence. And to create a shift, I mean, there's actually research on, I think it's something like 1%. If you had 1% of the population meditate and focus on a positive intention, you could literally shift the collective, vibrational consciousness. So I don't know who's going to organize that. I'm part of it when it's being organized, but we can, each of us, think about it, that ripple effect. If you and I and everyone listening does your part to tune in, to trust, to live from that space of connection, collaboration, community versus competition versus the old archaic, frankly, patriarchal ways of being, you are starting to raise the level of energy and that consciousness and that vibration. So each of us matters, each of your stories, each of your light, each of your calling. I believe whatever you feel called to do in your heart, there's an equal match and need on the other side. I've seen this over and over again with myself. I've seen it with others that I've worked with. And so, our CTA right now is to trust and to take care of her and to take care of ourselves and to, think really carefully, be mindful of choices. How and what are you eating? How are you nourishing your body, your mind, and your soul? And I think that's the bottom line, is that nourishment. And are you doing it with love? In the end, the energy to me of Mother Earth is love. I think the universe is love, is that frequency. And so if that's the energy, then it's really about how am I treating myself? How am I ingesting, nourishing, taking in life from a space of love? And it doesn't mean perfectly. It just means let's get a little more aware and support one another to do that, and support others to succeed and expand, knowing there's an abundance. So there's a lot of shifting that I think needs to happen. But anyone listening is in this category, because you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be attracted to. So that, to me, it's, everyone shining in a way that's going to add to the collective shift of abundance consciousness, of a different type of mindset. If you or anyone has read A Course in Miracles, I am not as...
I love A Course in Miracles.
Yeah, it's the basic belief or explanation of a miracle is a shift in perspective. And I think that's what's being asked, is a miracle. But a miracle is, not out of our reach. It's just shifting how we see ourselves and others and the world, and remembering there's always enough to go around. Just look at nature. Shows it all the time.
And talking about A Course in Miracles, I actually have a program that I'm collaborating with somebody on called Your Spiritual Shift, which is actually based around A Course in Miracles. But it's in more layman's terms, I suppose, because it's a very intense course that can take years and years to be able to really tap into. But this is why, when you talk about us all working together to help with the universal consciousness and to help with Mother Earth's call to action, this is why I built Superconscious Success, because it was a platform for people to get together and to really start to collaborate and expand. And there's no such thing as competition. And the sooner we recognize that working together is the absolute goal, as opposed to working against each other, then we can achieve so much more. And working with spirit, I believe, is the real goal is the real key to success when it comes to business. So I love that. I love how you describe that, and I think that we are all here to help to expand that universal consciousness.
Yes, so beautiful. I think the last thing I would just add, if it's okay, is that working with spirit, I think sometimes I forget this, and if I could say, this is my humble opinion, but, all of us are aspects of the divine. Like
Right.
that spirit energy is you, is
Yes,
me. So we're
exactly.
just individuated expressions, or, you know, unique expressions. But when you get that, why the heck would there ever be a beautiful universe that has, it doesn't make sense to have limited resources or lack or competition. It doesn't even, you know, I look at nature, it's like it doesn't even express like that. So to me, nature is one of the biggest teachers. I really, really, when I walk, I look at trees, I look at, you know, they don't fight for competition. There's like tons of tall trees and they're all doing great and sharing roots and nutrients. It's, so to me, it's like remembering that spirit, that beautiful essence is you, is me, is everyone listening. It's, are you still enough to tune into that? Are you quieting down enough and not being crappy to yourself if you don't do that, but just,
Yeah.
you know, try again. So just
Yeah,
wanted to add
because
that.
I think that as we go through life, we've been so accustomed to listening to what our ego is telling us, as opposed to listening to what our higher self is telling us. And so I think that's where we kind of get stuck. But in the same respect, like you said, you know, go easy on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself, because this is a skill that takes a little while to learn, and it's about practicing over and over, and you will start to hear those voices. But that quietness and recognizing that we are all abundant, and whether we have an overflowing bank account or not, we've got to remember that our belief systems play a major role in that. And so just listening to what Julie just said about going out in nature and recognizing the abundance in nature, the forest that I go through on my walks with my husband, there's an abundance of trees and birds and ducks and you name it. And so just recognizing that, you know, that they all work together as part of our cosmos, as part of our universe, to provide us with oxygen and to provide us with everything that we need to be able to have that beautiful, beautiful scenery out there. So focusing on the abundance we have in this world will change your perception of what's available. So I love how you just said that. And finally, what I do want to go into is, can you go a little bit into the School of Sacredology for me? I would love to hear more about it.
A quick story. This is why, y'all. This is definitely. I'll try to make it very quick, but this is a total intuitive download slash experience program. So yeah, the long short of it is, about 2 years ago, you were talking about the dream about your friend. I was driving with my kids home from the beach. We were going to the house we were staying in, and I just had this weird feeling. I looked up, and on the sign, it was one of those electric signs, like 2 for 1 margaritas. It was a beach town, and I saw the sign went black, and all I saw was, it said "Call Ron" in big green letters. I kid you not. Now my dad's name is Ron.
Okay.
And I had a very visceral reaction. My instinct was to look down at my dashboard. I'm very much into numbers and the meaning of numbers. And it had the numbers 18. That's how many miles I'd gone. It was 1800, which is also connected to life. And so I knew, and I was like, what is going on? It didn't freak me out until I just was like, what is happening? It was really late. I didn't call him because my kids, I had to get them to bed. I really didn't want to bother him. But the next morning I got a call from the hospital. My dad had fallen down 13 concrete stairs. He thought he was going upstairs, and put the light on. And I'm talking like the EMT were like, I don't know how he's alive, like, cracked open his head. It was really bad. He's 77. And I asked his wife, and she said it happened 5 minutes before 5 minutes after I got that sign. So that was very powerful. So I flew the next weekend to visit him. Long story short, I'll make it quick. While I was in the airport, I've learned when things get light or light up to pay attention. And there was a book in the bookstore in the airport. And it was actually like a book on politics, but it had the word sacred, and it like became golden. And I'm like, what is that? So I got into the plane, I started journaling. This is pre-pandemic. And I just kept hearing like sacred. And then I was like, sacred, same letters as scared. I'm like, that's weird. Why would I be needing to help people that are scared, and turn it to sacred? And then I heard sacredology, and I'm like, what's that? I've never
Wow.
heard that. I wonder what that is. And so for 9 months, almost 10 months, I started writing. I remember I'd go to the gym, I'd be on the bike, and it'd be like sacredology, and I'd write about what it meant and ideas and notes. And it was actually in the pandemic, like that first week, I woke up that day that we were all like March 17th, I woke up and I heard a voice say, Julie, your mission just started. You need to get out there and help people.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, that name came in, and all of a sudden, it was the most amazing, crazy, cool thing. I saw it. I saw School of Sacredology, and I always ask for give me a guide, give me a sense of this, that I'm on the right track. And I said, well, if I shorten it, the acronym, and I'm like, oh, it's SOS. I was like, okay, SOS. And it's become this beautiful community where it's all about learning how to trust and tap into your intuition, how to tap into your heart wisdom. I have amazing leaders come to do master classes, like the CEO of Heart Math. I've had PhDs in synchronicity, like beautiful master classes. I do in some intuitive readings, but also teaching and practicing how do you turn into your sacred intuition? How do you go from something that's fearful to love? So
Yeah.
this came out of, I mean, it's really quite amazing to me. I had no idea that's what would emerge, but it's a really powerful community. I'm in love with it, and with this whole like teaching and living and finding a safe space to like bring the woo.
Yeah.
Um, that's founded in some science too, but it's just people say like, oh, I love that I found a home where I can talk about this.
Oh, that's fantastic. And all of that information is actually going to be included in the playbook with Julie's information, as well as the assessment, the link for the assessment, because I think that everybody should go and do the assessment and figure out what intuition type you are. As Julie said, as you become more accustomed to hearing the messages, you may actually develop more dominant types. They may start to sort of like expand out. And so I definitely think it's worthwhile you going and checking it out and seeing how you can actually tap into that. So thank you so much, Julie. Is there anything else that you would like to leave our listeners with today before we head off?
Well, I just want to thank you. I think this topic is so important and amazing. I'm really honored to be here. And I would just say, to those listening, of course, take what you like and leave the rest. Like if
Yeah.
something didn't fit with you, then let it go. But this is so worth your time and energy. The more that you lean in and practice and trust yourself, your inner knowing, I can tell you, just watch out for miracles, watch out for beautiful synchronicities. And of course, feel free to connect if I can like support or just to hear what's going on. And Jennifer, I think this is so needed in the world. So I just honor you and thank you for holding this interview and summit and all of what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much for being here today, Julie. And I've really loved chatting to you and helping our listeners to understand the power of intuition and the power of tapping in and recognize that we're not special. We've just learned the techniques to be able to do this, and everybody can do it. We all have intuition, as Julie said. It's just a matter of us developing it. It's like any skill. And it does come down to trust. It comes down to trusting that your higher self is with you at all times and that you are being guided to live the best life you possibly can. So let's all live in abundance and let go of all that lack mentality that we've been dealing with, and recognize that our higher self is there to guide us. So thank you so much for joining us with our interview with Julie today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next interview. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much.